Fun fact, if you wanted to fit that new gaming handheld that we just saw right there, you're gonna need a new pair of Jinko jeans. And thanks to Gen Z for bringing back millennial fashion. You know, I miss those things. I haven't seen them since middle school. So if you want to fit that 8-inch screen and the big hulking portable in your back pocket, get you a pair because yeah, these things are huge. And if you want the rest of those portable gaming PCs, they're not getting any smaller. So but desktops are getting a little bit smaller, and mini PCs are now the big breakthrough. They've been around for a long time. I've been building mini ITX PCs for a while, but these discrete pre-built mini PCs that are either tall and slim or box like a Steam machine, I think this is the new trend. It seems like Valve always is a trendsetter in the hardware space. But that comes with a lot of caveats. But first, I kind of want to talk about how we're feeling about this tiny PC revolution. You know, again, nothing new in the do-it-yourself space, but it is becoming a lot more prevalent, a lot more accessible to a wider audience, and it's appealing to a larger crowd. And we saw some of that at CES. So I kind of want to go around the table and see how we're feeling about it. Matthew, I want to start with you and sort of what you're seeing out there.
Yeah, I think these sort of pre-built mini non-DIY systems are going to be the path forward with the price of components on the market and the availability of memory right now. We've seen a number of them for years. I think even some unexpected players like Framework last year got into the mini PC space. I reviewed the Framework desktop. Chip makers even coming up with new angles to approach this sort of market. The Ryzen AI Max Plus chips, which use unified system memory, so these small towers that can't even fit a full-size graphics card inside them, have the ability to draw on the system memory and use it as VRAM. Like, things are changing in this space, which is kind of an unexpected non-DIY head. Sorry to the hardcore PC builders out there. Pre-built market. It's becoming really interesting.
Yeah, Tim, what are you seeing out there? How are you feeling about this, and kind of what's your perspective on the mini PCs and pre-built PCs as a whole?
Yeah, I mean, speaking as someone who kind of gave up on gaming, don't break out the pitchforks. um, in After my Skyrim days, anything that's pre-built is actually very appealing to me. Part of the reason I think people like me moved away from gaming is that it's very, very complicated. It's intimidating if you don't want to build your own PC or stay up to date on all the latest GPUs and CPUs and everything you need to know. A pre-built machine that just kind of does it out of the box is very, very appealing. That being said, I think handhelds are also very attractive. So there's a lot of different choices, which is itself a little bit confusing, but anything that works out of the box, I think is a good thing.
For sure. David, I know you mentioned the Lenovo mini PC. Can you give us a little bit about what you saw with them?
Yeah, this is the Lenovo Yoga Mini I, and it's sort of like this, I don't know, coaster-shaped, puck-shaped little Mac Mini sort of competitor. I mean, I don't expect this thing to do a ton of gaming, but for $700, it is kind of the normie version of this. Comes with a Intel Core, or up to an Intel Core Ultra X7 processor, up to 32 gigs of RAM, so you can stuff a lot in there. 2 terabytes of storage, right? And like a baseline of ports behind it, your standard 1 Thunderbolt, 1 HDMI, et cetera, et cetera. So this is the kind of thing you can throw on your desktop or take with you to and from work. I wouldn't expect it to really game a lot, but I think a lot of these Steam Machine-esque sort of things are, using integrated graphics or anything to get your baseline level of indie games, games from yesteryear. It's probably not meant for a gamer crowd, but it's something that they could take to and from work that is at least attractive on a desk, and fits in your pocket, fits in your back pocket, fits in your Jinkos.
Could I add to, that's a great segue, because in addition to that mini PC, Lenovo showed off 2 all-in-one desktops, which normally, not for gaming at all. In addition to that mini PC, those are all running on Intel's new Panther Lake platform, which they sort of, the big push they're doing is the graphics cores in this chip integrated into this without an NVIDIA discrete GPU are way more capable of gaming than any Intel chip has been in the past. So these form factors that you might not expect are able to do, like you said, maybe not your hardcore AAA hardcore gamer experience. It's not what you would go for. But if you happen to have the laptop you work on, not your gaming PC with you, these things will be more capable of running some games. And these all-in-one desktops can also play some games. So Intel's Panther Lake chips will also help this sort of space and these pre-built systems and these different form factors, and the non-traditional paths to gaming have been opened up by the silicon advancements.
Absolutely. And one of the big stories that we reported on as well during CES was that Intel has said that they're going to enter the APU market in a big way to compete with AMD's chips that they've been putting in a lot of these portable devices. I mean, you look at a lot of portable gaming PCs and they're all running AMD hardware, and they've kind of had a more or less a lock on that market. You know, whether you're looking at the Steam Deck, or if you're looking at Asus ROG Allies or MSI Claws, like they're all running AMD hardware. But Intel is gonna try to make a break into that space as well. So it almost feels like, again, Valve comes out with the Steam Deck, people follow suit. Then we have the Steam Machine. It feels like a lot of people are going to follow suit there as well. And then now we have AMD and Intel in that kind of portable gaming space, providing their hardware. It feels like there's going to be a lot more options. It feels like the competition is going to kind of, a rising tide raises all boats. But then there are a lot of other factors that go into that. And I think it was very clear when I got to see the Thunder Robot Mix Gaming 2, which is a very tall, slim, pre-built sort of mini PC that is out in China. And Thunder Robot wants to explore bringing that stateside. And as you saw in the video, I talked with the global marketing manager, and he was telling me, like, we're just waiting when we can bring this to other regions, but we just can't right now because we can't ramp up production because of RAM prices. And so we'll get to that in a minute. But the thing that stood out to me about the Thunder Robot Mix Gaming 2 PC is that it's technically the smallest volume-wise to fit a discrete RTX 50 series card, which is pretty impressive on an engineering front. But that also gives you like super great performance, better than what you would see on the Steam Machine. But of course, these things serve different purposes. You have a high-end machine, you have something that's presumably affordable, because we don't know what the Steam Machine is going to cost quite yet. And I suspect that part of the reason why we don't know how much of the Steam Machine is going to cost quite yet, maybe Valve's not ready to share, but maybe also we don't know how much, the RAM shortage is going to affect the overall price of things this year, next year, and the years after, right? So it's the big topic around gaming PCs and any hardware, really. Like, we've seen price increases with the PS5 and Xbox 5 years after their launch. And, you go on any site to buy PC hardware, and RAM, which was once like $150 for a 32 gig setup of dual channel RAM, is now like $400 plus. And it's really wild how much it has been impacted. And that is sort of this gold rush towards AI. And like, that's a separate discussion. AI is a separate discussion that is that can be very, very complicated. But these data centers and the resources they require and the supply chain and the demand are not being met. So regular RAM is being priced upwards. But also, these companies have access to these parts in different ways than we do, but it's still going to affect them. And we see that reflected in the pricing and availability of a lot of these things. So when we're looking at mini gaming PCs versus the Steam Machine, and we're looking at prices in 2026 and beyond, how are we feeling? What do you suspect to happen this year and next, especially as we go into a new console generation? Matthew, I want to start with you.
Yeah, never has it been the case before where we don't even really, we ask, but we don't even expect to get an answer about pricing anymore. Normally, manufacturers I review a ton of laptops. Manufacturer shows me a new laptop. First thing is like, how much does it cost? That's what readers always ask. It's like, how much does it cost? Yeah. How much is it? The last year and change, they don't have an answer. I think, Valve probably has a target in mind for the Steam Machine, for example, but it's possible, like many PC manufacturers, that they just don't even have a final price yet because the component prices are fluctuating. And so, yeah, it's the AI stuff is in large part another field, separate discussion, but in a way it's very relevant to this space because it's impacting availability, it's impacting pricing. We just don't really know what we're going to see down the line, and manufacturers have been warning us about price raises, and some have even changed the cost of things as configured on the site, surprising customers. It's pretty dicey, and we didn't even see NVIDIA for the first time in a long time not unveil a new consumer GPU at all. So that's they've gone all in on AI. So that's a big example of how it's impacting the space. Gaming laptops kind of took a back seat because they're putting all their attention and all their memory and all of their big announcements were about the data center chips that they're launching in the future. So consumers, as far as the gaming space, taking a little bit of a backseat this time.
Yeah, it's sort of the consumers that take the hit when you see something like this, and AI being like this new forefront, this new gold rush, even if there isn't any gold at the end of it, are kind of the ones who will suffer in terms of pricing and availability, and it's unfortunate to see. And yeah, NVIDIA is doing a bunch of other things too, as we mentioned with Pulsar, DLSS, and all that. But a lot of folks are looking around and be like, well, I can't really afford a 50 series card. We're not even thinking about the 60 series, and they're talking about bringing out old graphics cards. It's kind of a mess out there as we kind of move to newer technologies, and we see cool new things like the Steam Machine, and we expect people to other companies to follow suit. It's kind of this curveball that people didn't really realize was going to impact everything else. David, do you have any perspective on this matter?
Yeah, so my main remit is smartphones, and the smartphone industry is kind of bracing for how, not just if, but how much are, phone retailers going to raise their prices because of these RAM shortages. And I can only imagine it's going to be the same thing in gaming hardware. Just, bracing for what is the market going to accept and allow. But also a lot of the phones are going to reduce their RAM, their RAM spec. So not just, maintain, but like drop down and use other mitigating factors like, VRAM and regular storage, borrow from that. We saw some TCL phones at CES 2026 that use that sort of hack workaround to varying degrees of effectiveness. But considering like how expensive and scarce RAM is going to become, I think it's just the whole industry bracing for what is going to be their strategy to get around this sort of thing. And there's a minimum RAM for handling AI. I think it's 8 gigabytes on the phone is sort of like the sweet spot. But does that mean that you're going to stay at 8 because you quote unquote need these AI features? Does that mean we're going to see, computer manufacturers just sort of deal with 16 gigs instead of everyone assuming that we're going to need to, move up to 32 for everything? I think doing more with less is kind of what's going to need to happen, whether that's finding some sort of software workarounds, finding some sort of, lowering demands of gaming or networking or whatever else, reducing background processes, like anything to keep the price manageable so consumers keep buying. That's my guess, just because I don't know if the RAM shortage is going to alleviate in the next year or two is what I've heard from analysts.
Yeah, I think like the demand that comes out of a lot of these AI projects that require data centers with generative AI and LLMs and all those hardware requirements, and there's like we can't ramp up manufacture to make up that gap. And I think that's a lot of people might not realize that that's the case, and that's not something that you can just like flip a switch and be like, oh, we're gonna have more factories pumping out more RAM. Like that's not really. It doesn't really work like that. And I feel like, unfortunately, I felt this way about the video card space in a couple years back too, when everyone was mining for cryptocurrency, is that I think the broader audience is going to kind of accept that RAM is going to be at a higher cost. It's not going to be $400 something forever for 32 gigabytes, but I think it will come down, but the normalized price will be higher than we had seen previously, which is, unfortunate. And, that's just something that we're going to have to deal with. And a lot of other companies are going to have to deal with as well, especially as we approach a new console generation. And we, who knows what Microsoft or PlayStation has in mind for their next generation of hardware when it comes to pricing and availability and being able to put these things out at a time where people actually want them. Tim, is there anything that you can share on your end on this whole dilemma?
Yeah, a couple of things. I mean, the big thing is just brace for impact, right? We kind of went through the same thing last year with tariffs, and now it's kind of all going on again with the memory shortage. Last year with tariffs was the first time I heard companies say, we don't know what the price is going to be. We have this awesome new product. We want you to test it and review it, but we actually don't know what the price tag is going to be even a month out from release. we're seeing a total repeat of that with the memory shortage. So the bad news is that, brands like Dell, HP, Lenovo, they've all signaled that price increases are coming with laptops in 2026. Unfortunately, I think that's very, very likely. One thing I'll note is that the biggest companies, so your Apples, your Samsungs, they're typically a little bit more insulated from price adjustments. They can usually absorb more of that. But that's bad news for people who like to buy things from like indie companies, right? So if you do like to, support those kind of upstart companies and brands, unfortunately, life's going to get a little bit harder.
Yeah, that's it's I'm almost hesitant to say that that's going to be a new normal, and I don't think we should necessarily, just put our heads down and accept that that is the way it is. But hopefully there are solutions to make things more affordable in the coming years, because it's a very complicated process. And we go to CES, we see a lot of these fancy things like, ooh, I want to get my hands on that, but again, there are many other factors that go into it. So whether it's mini PCs that are hot on the market, and more gaming devices, more portable gaming devices that you want to take on the go, these are things that you're going to have to consider when looking at that. But another thing you'll have to consider for a portable gaming device is probably the Pip-Boy 3000 replica that we have at the IGN store. So if you're looking for a very different kind of portable gaming device, be sure to check out the Fallout Pip-Boy 3000 replica, now available on the IGN store. It's got a fully functional LCD display that displays hundreds of screens from Fallout 3 and New Vegas, a working flashlight, and an FM radio, and it's even got an alarm clock. It won't run Fallout 4 without some heavy modifications. I know the DIY crowd is probably taking that as a challenge, but it's bound to be a hit at your next post-apocalyptic LARP session. Especially with the new season on the rise, I'm sure a lot of folks are going to be cosplaying their Fallout boys, their Vault boys, if you will. And you can find that plus tons of more gaming shirts, collectibles, and gear at IGNstore.com.